Corey, how are you?
I've been better. That's for sure. I definitely got my energy better than it was probably even a month ago. I did some experimental treatments that I don't know what they did or didn't do, but the energy got better. I couldn't have had this conversation with you even a month ago.
How long have you had COVID?
So I got. We don't really know. It's weird. So because when you look back, I don't. We don't know if I got hit with two different things at once. We don't really know because luckily I get blood work done all the time because I'm really analytical and um, we in February things were off, but it was really weird. I was catching like neurological symptoms and like my ears were ringing and I felt kind of funny and I kept being like, man, I don't feel right, and I had very strange symptoms that didn't seem like what they were saying COVID was, which was like the flu at the time. And it didn't seem like anything else. And I went and ran a couple of labs early and everything was kind of normal. So I was like, oh, whatever. And I pushed through and I was kind of getting, I would catch little fevers towards the end of February. Like my body temperatures go to 100. And I was like, what?
At that point, you were as fit as you've ever been.
Yeah, yeah. I was actually really fit. What's weird is I had slacked off the year before. I got so deep with music, which is so cerebral, and I'd spend 12 hours, 13 hours just production and working, and I'd get obsessive. And I was never unhealthy, but I was not this fitness person.
Okay, because prior to that, just paint the picture a little bit, is that
My
you
whole
were
life was fitness and fighting and health. I mean, I that's my whole life was that, and I've always gotten away with it, like because of being fit. And that's a whole nother thing we'll go into. Where going through this, I realized it's a mistake to think that healthy is the same as fit. And I think that that's a mistake I made. And I got away with a lot of shit because I was fit. So yeah, I had like abs and I could go run 6 miles, but like I didn't sleep great all the time. I pushed all the time. My whole life. That's what I learned. Like, look, I know people that got COVID who are 65 with diabetes and smokers, and they're fine. So there's other variables I think that we just don't fucking know about. We just don't know. And I've been working with all the top people, and no one knows. There's got to be some genetic component. There's got to be something else, but I can only speak for myself looking back, regardless of what caused what. Yes, I was always fit. I was always fit. I don't know if I was healthy. I don't know if my mind was always healthy. I've been through a lot of trauma in my life. I don't know if I slept well. I don't know if like now I have blue blocking glasses and I time my circadian rhythm perfectly and I make sure I wake up at get sun in my eyes immediately. I don't get any blue light after 8. After getting sick, I went deep. I never did this shit before getting this sick. I never. Yeah,
yeah,
sorry.
okay, yeah. And when I use fit, I'm glad you're course correcting to say healthy. That you are fit because you were 1% in the fight world and 1% in the wrestling world and jujitsu, and so
Yeah,
you were fit, and you're saying, yeah, I'm not sure I was healthy.
I'm not sure I was healthy. I had like some gut issues that I didn't ever address.
Okay.
I had
hmm
like weird things that I knew to like I could get away with and like push through.
And we should probably do like the full story of how we met and all that,
Yeah,
to set the context, because I got a random DM from you,
yeah.
and it was from what is your handle? Punk the Bunny.
Punk the money. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I was like,
That's
what?
not.
What? I looked at it. I was like, and it was like, dude, I haven't seen you for so long, and I'm like looking at the picture. I go, God, I recognize you. And then I look at, and then I said, Punk the Bunny. Who's Punk the Bunny? Right? And
Yeah.
this is your music
Yes. Yeah,
handle,
yeah,
if
yeah.
you
Yeah.
will.
Production and artist and yeah, I made a huge. I chose a different way to play. I got to a place where um, you know, being a fighter and training all the time was everything. Like, it was a drug, it was validation, you know, it was everything, and in good ways and in bad ways. It was everything.
Your entire identity was wrapped up in it.
Was you're a fighter. You know, I could be anywhere, and it was like someone would be like, "Oh, you're a fighter." It's like, just even if they didn't recognize you, just the way you're built, the way you carried yourself, there was like this whole character that you create, this whole identity, and the way you walked and everything. And
but you were also highly skilled. You were one of the kind of prodigies for a legend, right?
That never made it. And and it's really something I had to deal with, where always something, you know, there's other pieces beyond that play into how well you do or what happens with your story. And for me, my body, like injuries and mental stuff and trauma stuff, constant sabotaging, weird things, just things didn't work out. And it was, to your point, you have these top coaches. Even when I was in Vegas, when I moved to Vegas, and I'm at Drysdale's and I'm at Couture's, and the top guys are like, he should be in the UFC. Like, when you're in the gym, and then every time you're like, oh, I shouldn't, I gotta hang this up my body. But then you go train, and you're just like, I'm just gonna train. And then you're training, and they're like, why aren't you fighting? Like, you're mopping dudes that are in the, you're literally highly competing. And then your ego gets the stroke, and then you're like, all right, I'm back. And then you jump back in, and then you get hurt again, or whatever happens again. And it was this vicious cycle I was in for literally years.
What was happening underneath the surface, though? Because you had the physical, technical talent, and then in training, you were great. The greats were recognizing that you should be, you know, what you're in the 1%ers of the 1%ers. Yeah. And then what was the inner narrative that was getting in the way? Because this is my same story, by the way. This is exactly why I got into this field.
Well, there's two pieces, I would say, and probably can unpack it more. But I'd say probably the two main things was just a pattern of self-sabotage that was just there. That was probably there from young, of like, oh, when things are about to be good, take it away.
Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
Probably likely the feeling of two pieces. Probably one, not thinking you're deserved, like a self-worth issue. And then I would say that's a huge piece. And then two, back to what we were talking about before we jumped on, being afraid you're a phony. Like, having some, you know, I think getting hyped up a lot at a young age, there's almost like a pressure, and you almost are like, I don't want to find out I'm not this really dope, this thing. And I think it was probably some of that. I think it was some fear. You know, when you're in the gym, it's different. And not that I didn't love competing, but I think it's different. And I think that I think you can show up and you want to show up, and you can, you know, like, it's different. And I think that there's a huge mental piece to that I went through literally for 7-8 years.
The idea that you can't outperform your self-worth is a real idea. And so if you don't value who you are, or don't know your inherent worth, or even what is possible for you, and believe that is possible for you, you can't outperform it. And you might get lucky. You might get a victory here and there, but then what happens after that is it's not sustainable, because the floor is so low that to touch the ceiling was actually like, oh my God, it happened. Now, when people touch the ceiling, maybe sometimes they go, oh, there's another ceiling, you know, and you do get that flywheel effect. But the essence is you cannot outperform your self-worth. And if there is a component there of the imposter syndrome that's also with it, yeah, both of those together are, you know, they're like cousins, but both of those together becomes a bit overwhelming for sure. And you know it firsthand. And guess what? Most people that I know that are on the world stage wrestle with one or two of those together. Both of them, it makes it really hard, as you know. Yeah.
really hard. And the fact is it was always like that.
Do you want to fill people in, because you and I have a history? Do you want to fill
Yeah.
people in on that piece, that part of
Yeah,
it?
absolutely.
Just
Yeah,
to kind of close the loop
yeah,
on it. Yeah.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
listen, you're the first person, okay? I want to be super clear. You're the first person that I've had on here that I've actually materially done work with. But that work was how long ago?
Oh my God, it's like 13 years ago.
Yeah,
Easily.
right. And so
Easily.
it feels like a lifetime has changed. And
Yeah.
when you reached out to me on social media the other day, I was like, and so we're just texting back and forth. I was like, oh my God, you've got this amazing story that I want to capture and put it here if you're into it.
Yeah, no, I am. I'm beyond into it. It was everything to me for you to offer that and to come on here, because going through what I've gone through, I felt, I don't know what's going to happen to me. Like, if you looked at my blood work right now, no one knows it doesn't look good. As much as I look like maybe I'm semi-healthy right now, maybe, even though I've lost like 20 pounds, my blood work looks like I'm, like, not to be morbid, but like I'm slowly dying. It's not good. I got low T cells, almost no B cells, which are how you make antibodies. They don't know why. I have really high inflammatory markers that are like scary high, and they don't know why. And it's only getting worse, not better, since COVID. So being able to come on here and at least tell my story, my whole story, and this story, because there's no one trying to solve this harder than I am. And it would make sense when you know my whole story, why I'm obsessively trying to figure this out and fight and survive.
My hair's standing up. Yeah. You've been doing that your whole life.
My whole life. Yeah. When I met you, So when I met you, I had just moved out to California from New York. I was, training under Renzo Gracie, and won a bunch of like amateur fights and grappling tournaments. I had just taken second or third in the worlds in no gi, and Sean Williams was like, come out to LA, and I was basically making a decision to fight professionally, and that was like it. I was just fighting, no working, no nothing. And I, through Vladimir Matyashenko, got hooked up with Velocity, which was a training center for a lot of pro athletes and stuff, and got connected with you. And I mean, the work that I did with you changed my life to where everything I've gone through, including this that I'm going through, so many things of the work you made me do, I use, and I think of they are embedded. And it wasn't just stuff you said. It was stuff you got me to say at an age, I was like 20, at an age where I didn't know that was there, all this ego and all this stuff, and I didn't know. And you're the first guy like cry, you got me to really, like snot nose cry.
Yeah.
Heavy shit, and acknowledge that, I was afraid of being a phony. I'll never forget it. That was like, it was, in a nutshell, my biggest issue I've always had, probably. And you got, like, whatever work we were doing, it like was like an exorcism. I'll never forget it.
Oh, very cool, man. Yeah.
Poured out of me.
Okay, I want to take a quick little break right here to talk about KiwiCo. With the holidays right around the corner, KiwiCo is an ideal gift and a one-stop gift shop for kids of every interest and age. Kids can discover the engineering and mechanics behind everyday objects, the science and chemistry of cooking, geography and culture from new cultures, and brand new art and design techniques, all through seriously fun, hands-on projects. I've been a KiwiCo supporter for years. My son and I enjoy them. When a box comes and there's a new project in the box, there's a bit of anticipation. It's fun. You rip it open. There's instructions that are really clean and clear. It's a great way as a parent to support your child to be curious and engaged and challenged. There's something for all kids, all ages, and there's no commitment. You can pause or cancel your subscription anytime. This holiday, don't just teach kids how to buy, that you've bought them gifts. Teach them how to build. Give them a gift of hands-on holiday with KiwiCo subscription and celebrate a love for hands-on learning all year long. Get 50% off your first month plus free shipping on any Crates line with the code FINDINGMASTERY. So punch over to kiwico.com and then use that code FINDINGMASTERY. It's 50% off your first month, and it's spelled Kiwi, Kiwi, co, kiwico.com, and the promo code is FINDINGMASTERY. And Finding Mastery is also brought to you by Wealthfront. If you want to invest for the long term, it helps to invest on your terms. So maybe you are pro-solar, clean energy supporter, or maybe you're an emerging market crypto nerd, whether whatever you're doing here, whoever you are, I hope that you're investing in what you believe in. And that's what makes Wealthfront so great. After answering just a couple of questions, Wealthfront will build you a diversified portfolio of low-cost index funds, and they do it in just minutes. You can also build your own portfolio with clean energy funds, crypto trusts, whatever it might be. Wealthfront even offers a socially responsible portfolio. It's a mix of funds built around human rights, climate change, sustainability, and diversity. Best of all, Wealthfront is totally automated. They do all the trading, all the rebalancing, and they even help you lower your tax bill while you invest. So to start building your wealth and to get your first $5,000 managed for free for life, go to wealthfront.com/finding mastery. So it's spelled just like it sounds, Wealthfront, WEALTH, front, FRONT.com/finding mastery to start building your wealth. So again, that's wealthfront.com/finding mastery to get started today. And now let us jump right back into this conversation. I think part of that work is it requires incredible vulnerability/courage for somebody to say the truth. To even orbit the truth requires some vulnerability and risk. And then to actually kind of sit in the soup of it and then to put words while you're feeling it in it. So me included. And I could see that with you. I remember it clearly because that's my issue too, and so I grappled with it. I don't know if you knew that at the time, because I don't do a lot of,
I didn't.
I don't do self-disclosure,
Yeah.
It's because it's about you. And so,
right.
I
didn't know that.
I could see it and I could feel it. And I was like, oh, and then come to find out, Corey, is like, this is called 13, 15 years ago. The best of the best that I spend a lot of time with, same issue. I would not have known it. I would not have known it.
Wow.
If I could record, which obviously can't because of, all the confidentiality stuff, like these beautiful conversations with beautiful people like yourself that are really working at a deep level and also mechanically want to do the mental skill stuff, like at the surface. I think that people, this is why I started this podcast too, is to say, because we've had extraordinaries on, and I can't tell you the amount of them say, oh yeah, the imposter syndrome. Oh,
yeah.
So, welcome to the club.
Yeah. What's funny is the first day I met you, I mean, dude, it's like, and I've got crazy, like weird dementia stuff going on where half the time I can't remember where I put anything after COVID.
Because of COVID?
But it's the brain fog stuff is really gnarly. But man, these things, they're so deep. The first day I met you, I was in an office at Velocity. I'll never forget this. And I started telling you my story, like something.
Hold on. I'm so nervous right now. I am so nervous right now. Yeah. Okay.
I started telling you about when I got stuck up when I was 14. I got stuck up at gunpoint. I was involved in some stupid shit. I was a young kid, didn't live in a good place. And I was telling you about it. And you totally, like, this was like the first of the work. It started, right? You called me out on how detached I was from what I was saying about the story. Like you were, the whole thing of the work, that it's funny because you've created a monster, because I do this to people now when I feel that they're not being genuine. The depth to which I had to dig in to those authenticities of like, well, what do you really feel about? I had gotten used to telling the story so much in this like very detached, protective way. Just shit like that I'll never forget. Like all those moments of those things. and you like that work. I never even knew what that work was before I met you, you know? So anyway, yeah,
What was, let's go right before that. What attracted you to do the work? Because I think a lot of people that are hungry to know that they've got more inside of them. They've got this thirst or this hunger that I know there's more. I mean, I'm craving it. And I say that with a deep wink to a Buddhist idea, which is like the craving is actually part of the sickness. So I don't want to speak out of both sides, but this of my mouth, I guess I should say, I should finish the thought, but you wanted more, you wanted to unlock, you knew there was more inside you. And a lot of people think the same thing. And then for whatever reasons, don't take the extra step. And then when they're actually, those that do, don't take the extra step inside of the work when you did both. So maybe you could illuminate why you wanted to do the work and then why you actually went deep into the work. And because I think people are going to resonate with this.
Yeah, I think I can. I can tell you three things that I thought about that a lot. And I would say, and tell me what you think of this, but I think some piece of it is program. I don't know if you can hear my dog snoring. So one piece of it is programming. I think that I got taught at a young age to do work with coaches. Like I think sports, and I had a mother, as you know, there's like the song Pink Floyd song Mother, and there's some issues with that.
We all had a mother.
Right.
Okay. So,
right. Right. But I will, to her credit, to this day, to what's getting me to survive through what I'm going through, no matter how poor we were, she didn't want me to know it. And she and my father, but my mother heavily, but both of them to a degree, I had to have the best teacher. I had to have the best coach. Like they taught, because my whole life I sought out. Like as I got older, I was like John Danaher. Everyone knows who John Danaher is. He's one of the greatest jiu-jitsu coaches and minds in the world. He was my coach, but he wasn't my coach by luck. I mean, maybe on some, I sought him out. There was 6 teachers at Henzo.
How? Okay, because you're still doing that now with COVID.
Still doing. I DM'd you again for help. Like I knew. Yeah. I know. My mother, I think, my childhood taught me. This is one piece. I think taught me that programming taught me to always look for the best like teacher or coach.
My hair's standing up again. Summarize all of the times your mom had said something potent towards this axiom. But if you were to summarize it in a sentence or two, what was that general consistent message?
Like that if you're gonna do something, it should be the best with the best and of the, like if you're gonna do it, it was always that. It was like, well, if you're gonna, like, and when I was in 3rd grade, I'll give you an example. For whatever reason, personality, I don't know. You know, everyone's in band when you're a kid. You take band in school. And if you're kind of like a knockaround kid, you get put in percussion. It's just like, if you're a bad kid, they didn't waste their time with you. You held a cymbal or a...
Somewhere Travis Barker is laughing right now. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So you got put in percussion. They didn't give you... And my best friend, Corey, his name's Corey too, was playing saxophone. And I did not like that. Why aren't I playing saxophone? So I wanted to play saxophone. I didn't want to be, I was like, what? And my mother got me the best teacher, this girl in high school who's this like prodigy, to teach me lessons. And no one had gotten lessons where I was living. Then everyone was getting lessons from her. But she's like, you want to play saxophone? Okay.
That's what's
You're going to take lessons. I ended up being the best. I ended up being first chair, jazz, all that shit. Like, but there was something, I think, ingrained in me to do that.
That's such a gift, because so the message was, if you're going to do it right, and do it with the best towards being the best. And I'm not sure if it was the best or your best. I want to hit that in a moment. But then your mom actually backed it up. So that's what you have done in your work. Like you back it up. You back it. Yeah.
Always.
Okay.
And like when I met you, when like velocity, there was like these, you can feel it. There's something you learn. You learn to, it's important. I think it's one of the most important things you could teach a kid that a lot of kids don't learn. I meet people all the time, how to seek out proper teachers, like how to go get it, how to go get the information, I'm doing it now with doctors and with researchers. And it's something I know how to do that other people don't, because I'm on a support group of thousands and thousands of people like me post-COVID who are lost, who are going to their GP, who's offering them antibiotics and steroids, and who don't know how to. To me, it's almost, sometimes I lose empathy because I don't realize, oh shit, like I'm very lucky that I have this skill. Not everyone has it.
So can you open that up a little bit? Like, what are some of the ways that you can spot or sense somebody who is going to be able to help, or somebody who is like maybe just kind of putting it on autopilot, or they're just faking it? Yeah, or they're faking it.
Faking it. Yeah. Ooh, that's a really good question. I think it's so intuitive, like a feel, but a little bit of it is bet hedging. One of the things I'll do, you can see it. You can kind of see it. You kind of gotta, so like at Henzo's, right? When I was at Henzo, all the guys every teacher there was great. Do we all see who John Donaher is now? When I started training with John, he was not the guy but he was not the guy he is now. He was like a secret. He was like Henzo's best kept secret. He was a secret. Like no one knew this guy was this super brain of jiu-jitsu.
What did you see? And people that don't know jiu-jitsu, these names are not relevant. But if you're in the MMA world, you go, oh, Henzo, and
and John. I mean, John is the guy. Yeah. You know, my grandfather, when I was you're bringing things up that are making me connect it deeper. It goes beyond my mother. My grandfather, rest in peace, was a hero of mine. He kind of raised me, and I always looked up to him. And he was a psycho perfectionist. I'm talking and he could build anything and make like on a high level, carpentry, electrician, like anything. And I used to watch him when I was a little boy do anything. I'm talking the way he buttered fucking bread was perfect. Like, and it's funny because it ties to something you used to tell me in our work. He would butter bread and I would get chills as a little boy. I would get goosebumps. He would be so focused, and not one part of the bread could be, it was that kind of focus and that kind of intent in everything he did. And you like felt like something special was happening. Like there was something, and we used to, in our work, used to say like, being a champion is how you brush your teeth. It's not just, it's everything you do. You used to always, and like my grandfather was like that. So I think even that, like you see John, and when John is working or drilling or teaching, nothing else exists but what he's doing.
That's it.
And it's so, you get chills.
And if you can't see that in somebody else, I say sometimes to some of my friends, like, hey, there's a difference between a swan and a duck. They kind of look at the same, but there's a deep, deep difference between the two. And so if you can't see that deep committed focus in even a conversation, you're probably not going to get it in other places. Yeah.
Facts. And to carry that into doctors, researchers, it's the same. There's some people who are like, this is what they do. That they probably don't have a dog. They might not even have kids. Like, this is what they do. Like, there's guys like that. And when you're chronically ill, you want that guy or girl. You don't want anyone else. I'm telling you that now. It's a surgeon. Like, there's a certain demeanor.
And you know what? They don't have to, unfortunately, have good bedside manners.
No.
Right? But but it's nice when they have both skills, EQ and technical skill. It's awesome. And I would never abdicate saying that you can forego, your emotional, social skills to be great at your craft. It's actually obnoxious to me that somebody can't, unless you've got a disorder like, I don't know, autism or something where it's really hard to connect,
spectrum.
But
all that sometimes is the case.
Sometimes that happens. Yeah. And so you give that a pass because it's a real thing. But just because you're good doesn't mean you get to be a jerk. But what you're saying right now is like you can see and smell and hear and feel and touch those that like have that thing. You're like, it's palpable to me.
And there's another piece to touch on with what you're saying. I love this conversation. Is that those people that you just described, I find, even this is like a weird, subtle thing, but if another thing I think is important as a young person to learn, which I learned, which I can go into is how to formulate and ask the right question. Doing that develops mentorship with people like that, even when they're ornery. And they won't be ornery with you. And I've learned that firsthand, and I can attest to that sometimes people that are really in their work, they just can't be bothered with people wanting things to be just handed to them. And they really appreciate it when you want to really understand, because that's what they did. They spent so much time wanting to understand this thing that, you want me to just give it to you?
Gold. Gold, Corey. Yeah, gold.
You want to be just jujitsu'd? You just want to get it? They don't like that shit. But if you know how to formulate learning how to ask a good question. I grew up being taught that the smartest kid in class wasn't the one with the right answer. It was the one with the best question. And I got taught that by my rabbi as a kid. And he always encouraged me. That was another huge piece growing up, was with my rabbi. I got more out of that than school. And he always encouraged me because I was so curious. And he really nurtured my curiosity. And I'd try to stump him all the time with questions. And maybe I'm on a tangent, but like that's the other piece I'd say with seeking and then like securing those people who are going to help you. It's probably a survival mechanism as a kid that's important to develop is how do I get someone to mentor or take me on? How do I foster that? And a big part of it is knowing how to ask the right questions and showing true interest and like, I want to, John always said, technique without principles is just a bag of tricks, right? So if I just show you how to do an arm bar, big fucking deal. Like if you don't know the nuances and the technique and the principles around, not the technique, the principles around setting that up, it's meaningless.
This is where like you're going to get me fired up right here because the same on the mental part of the game, there's no tricks. I can't give you any tips. There are core fundamental first principles to understand and fully embody. And then from that place, which is a lifelong pursuit, it's not like you just read the book of principles. Like you've got to really understand some stuff that's true for you, right? And then you work from that place out. And sometimes it's accidental that you learn an arm bar before and then you go, oh, this is how I actually freaking apply this. Sometimes it goes the other way. But the orientation, the fundamental orientation is first principles first. So here's the thing that like, let's go some of our work before that with your training work and then finding mentorship and then later finding solutions in medical. There's a through line here, which is first principles and great questions and mentorship, like submitting to like these 6 people that I can identify have something that they've studied their life for. It's deep, it's rich, it's true. And I want to be closer to that because I need to solve something here too. Right. So, okay. Okay. Money as
music,
far as
all of it, like
all of it. Yeah.
I've ever done, everything it carried into it. Music, singing, it was like, everything's a puzzle.
Keep going.
Like for me, it's all like changing what the game is, but it's all this puzzle. And you're looking for, I think, for me, I was always looking for something that felt like magic, like this thing where I have really high pattern recognition. And I liked when I had to discover a pattern. And music was, I mean, to get into, I mean, just, and guide me if you want, where you want me to go. But like how I got to music was all the injuries and this and that. And I kind of fell, I was always musical. I got photos of me with guitars when I was like 3 years old. But what woke it up was finding an outlet. And I got in the studio and I was wanting to, I saw music as like a code to break. Like, how do I make a hit song? What is it? Like, and it's literally like, you know, the most magical thing there is. Like, it's something until we have quantum computers, we won't get how that happens. It's too many variables.
I wanted to understand your COVID story, but here we are talking about your life journey, which I'm a fan of the life journey, you know. And then you say it's like a puzzle, and it's like, what I love about the puzzle, putting the puzzle together, is one part of the puzzle are people and principles and application. And when I can put those things together, then I get that aha, like, oh, and so you're almost organizing your life efforts towards the ahas. And
yes.
Right. And so the aha, yes. if we go spiritual for a moment, the aha is called insight. So looking for insight, deep truths that are not surfacely available, is an insight. And the only way to get to insights is to really do the internal deep work, to be fully present, to be fully absorbed, whether it's in conversations or craft with people or self. And then when you get into that place, then you go, oh, that's how that worked. And then our brain, be a nerd for a minute, our brain lights up with gamma brainwaves. So our brain has this really unique signature for aha. So it's called gamma brainwaves. And I'm oversimplifying all this. And then when we can string together a couple insights, then we start getting into wisdom.
Yes.
Okay, I want to take a quick little moment here to talk about a solution that's been amazing for our company, Finding Mastery. If you're a startup founder, you know the importance of early decisions. And one decision that thousands of successful founders have made is choosing Stripe as their payments platform. So over the past decade, Stripe has made processing payments simple and borderless, enabling ambitious businesses such as Instacart, Lyft, Shopify to grow revenue and expand into new markets quickly. And at Finding Mastery, we have trusted Stripe to manage our payments for our Finding Your Best online high-performance psychology training course. And we've been doing that for the last 7 years. What we love most is that their APIs and their docs are incredibly easy to use, which has helped us integrate Stripe and to start accepting payments in a matter of minutes, not days. It's also freed up our team to focus on the creating of the experience in the course that you would expect from us, while Stripe handles the business of payments and money movement. So whether you're an online or in-person retailer, software platform, marketplace, or subscriptions business, I want to encourage you to visit stripe.com to learn more about how Stripe can support your business today. So that's Stripe, STRIPE, stripe.com to get started today. And Finding Mastery is brought to you by Inside Tracker. Inside Tracker cuts through the noise by analyzing your blood, DNA, lifestyle, and fitness trackers to provide you with a personalized, science-backed, trackable action plan on how to live, how to age, how to perform better in your life. And that is my favorite part. They don't just give you data. They actually turn that data into useful information and provide you with nutrition and lifestyle actionable steps that you can take to live your life well. If you missed the recent Finding Mastery conversation with Inside Tracker founder and chief science officer, Dr. Gil Blander, I hope you'll check that out. We take a deep dive on longevity and discuss different strategies for living a longer, higher quality life. So for limited time, Inside Tracker is offering us 25% off their entire store. So if you're interested, this is a great opportunity to get started. Just go to insidetracker.com/findingmastery. And it's spelled just like it sounds. Inside, INSIDE, tracker, TRACKER. insidetracker.com/findingmastery for 25% off. And with that, let's get right back into the conversation. Can you play a riff from the song that you shared with me? That was online. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
I'm a suicide kid, I'm a fucking dialect. They're feeling my dream when I stay diving. Yeah, I'm back on my shit, love it when the drugs hit. God, I love you, but I'm lying if I told you off.
So when I made that, this is what's crazy. And, you know, so I've made, I don't know, thousands of songs. And I'll tell you, and I bet you people making music, I don't know how many artists, I know guys I know that go through this. I don't know if it's the same for everybody, but for me, it's this puzzle. And the puzzle isn't just like, oh, how do I make like a hit? Because what is that? But things have to do a thing. That's what I say. It's got to do the thing. And when it's doing the thing, you know it. It's undeniable. It just does a thing, and you just know it's doing the thing.
You did it, dude. I listened to it and I was like, man, is that him? Is that Corey? Because I know Corey is like, you know, like a scrappy fighter. Like, is that Corey?
Yeah.
You know, and I thought maybe you produced it because I couldn't recognize your voice in it.
Yeah.
And sure enough, you produced it and you did the whole thing.
And singing. Yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And
all right. So listen, where can people find that? Because I'm sure they're buzzing right now too.
Spotify, iTunes. So the song's called Suicide Kid. PunkTheBunny is my stage name and producer and writer and artist name.
Did you go through a suicide phase?
Yeah, I did. I went through a really dark phase with that, and a very heavy phase. But what's interesting is I wasn't going through that when I wrote it. And I'd love to quickly speak on that because it's really important that people know that about music. And, you know, John Lennon talked about it all the time, and Rick Rubin talks about, you know, you kind of have an antenna when you're doing it right. And the songs kind of write themselves. And my process when I do a song is I mumble. Kanye, I heard, does this. A few people do this. I kind of freestyle and I mumble melodies. And then as I'm doing, I'll be in the vocal booth and I'm mumbling kind of. And then words start coming out. And you start hearing words. I mean, not everyone does it. I don't write it. I kind of mumble. And then I'm trying to catch a melody and an emotion. And in the chords you play with the guitar, and there's a feeling. You're trying to like capture a feeling. And then once you feel the feeling, that's what makes the words. It's like you have this feeling from the chords and from the music, and then the words come out of you from something. It's not even always you. Sometimes it's your brother, or it's someone you talk to once. It's in your and your antenna is like, you're like a conduit. It's magic. It's the most beautiful, magical thing of all the things I've ever done. When you do it right.
Yeah, I'm inspired right now because I've always wanted to be part of making something special in music. I'll hack around on a guitar and say that purposefully. But then I listen to folks like yourself and other folks that kind of change the rhythm of the world based on the music that they've expressed. I go, man, and that's not my craft. I mean, I don't know anything about it, you know, but if the question were, if you could know all the languages in the world or know the language of music, which one would you choose? And I was asked that by somebody and I was like, music. Totally. Like I love language. I love language. I love finding the right words for the right expression. But then when you can hit the emotional pieces across the planet, because not everyone speaks the same verbal language, but that musical language. Yeah.
You can see it's a feeling, right?
Oh, and,
that's what got me into the, and to touch on one other piece of it that I think is important is there was 3 years where I was I got a meeting with Sony early through my cousin, long story short. And I was like, oh, and they're like, oh, you got to make music like this or like that. And for about 3 years, I chased a sound. And I was trying to make music that sounded like other people. And it would do it, but I never did the thing, ever. And I couldn't understand why. And music, this is in my experience, doesn't let you do it. It won't allow it. If it's not authentic, everyone knows and feels it. And there's just something not vibing with people. And it's like, that's the other thing I loved about it, is you can't bullshit. If you do, everyone knows. Maybe you'll have one hit and then but there's something about when you're trying to make a song that if you don't just let it really be authentic, it's like a firewall. And it's kind of, there's a weird physics or magic to that I became addicted to too, because I had to get more and more authentic to make it sound good. Like if I tried to do anything else, it just wouldn't work. So anyway, it was, yeah.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's get into the your condition with COVID. I mean, this is going to feel like shifting tracks pretty radically.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Because we're talking about amazing insights and lessons learned, and beautiful prose to hear. And then you get COVID. You still keep training. You thought you had like an allergy
for
or
about
sniffles.
2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, for about 2 weeks, I was like boxing and working out, and I had like little fevers, and I just didn't think it. I was like, and then for a moment I was like, because it was just coming out in the news, and I was like, nah, I'm fine. And I kept like coming and going, and then I woke up. I think it was March 22nd. It was a Friday morning, freezing cold with like 102 fever, and this is when no one could go to the doctor. Everything was shut down. There was no COVID tests. There was nothing. It was hysteria. And you were forced to stay home and quarantine and isolate and recover. And I couldn't breathe. I felt like I had like an elephant sitting on my chest. And a friend of mine got it at the exact same time as me. We might have got it together, not sure. And so we're on the phone. We have the identical symptoms, and we're both like, feel like we're dying. And we must have either got a low dose of it. I don't know, because I know it's so variable. But maybe being run down. And this went on for 12 days. I lost in those 12 days, I lost like 10 pounds. Couldn't eat. Couldn't breathe. We didn't have a pulsometer yet, and the nurse that I would call would tell me, if you can hold your breath for more than 10 seconds, don't come to the ER. Like, that was literally where we were at. Okay. And I would just go and try and see. I mean, it was like the worst, dumbest thing ever. So anyway, on the 12th day of that, and everyone's telling me, 2 weeks. So I'm like, all right, man, I just got to make it through this shit. Like 2 weeks. All right. And I get to like day 12 of this like massive it felt like someone was beating me with baseball bats, like 10 people, like the aches and the inflammation. And I had a seizure on the 12th day. My whole body was convulsing. I lost consciousness.
Who's taking care of you, Corey?
Nobody. I was by myself at this point. I was by myself. I was still having to walk my dog with this twice a day. While I was like dying, I had to still walk her. So, and no one can come near you. You had to. It was crazy. And I didn't have anything. I didn't have like enough stuff, and like the right supplement. It wasn't ready. It caught me like off guard. And I went to the hospital finally. My friend drove me, wore a mask. I sat in the back, wore a mask, and I had a seizure. I couldn't remember my name. Everything was like warped. Couldn't remember my date of birth, nothing. And I get there. They kind of stabilize me, run some labs. Blood work looks like I'm in an infection. Like my lymphocytes were kind of low. And he's like, yeah, you got an infection. Probably COVID. They weren't doing COVID tests, by the way. But literally every symptom I had was COVID. And they sent me home. They're like, you're young. You got to go home. We need the beds. So I go home. that night I was like, my arms, everything was like jerking and twitching, and like my whole nervous system, something was wrong. And I recognized the feeling from when I got concussed pretty bad in a fight. It was a similar feeling where I felt kind of like if I closed my eyes, I'd have hallucinations. And I remember being afraid to go to sleep. But I was like, if I don't sleep, it's going to be bad. And I had to kind of roll the dice and like go to sleep. And I woke up the next day and I felt a lot better. And I was like, oh shit, I think I'm coming out of this. And for about a week, I would just get fevers at night, but my appetite came back. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm coming out of it. I remember posting on my Instagram, like, I think I'm coming out of it. I don't want to jinx it. Lasted about a week. I was just having low-grade fevers at night. And then that Sunday, it was like another wave came. And it got into my lungs, like different. I got a cough. Felt like pneumonia. And I fell asleep that night. And my fevers came back high again. And I fell asleep that night and woke up in the middle of the night. At that point, I had a really expensive oximeter and a heart rate monitor I was wearing. And I got up to pee in the middle of the night, and I felt like I was having a heart attack. And my heart rate monitor was reading like 220, 210, 130, 180. And tons of long haulers, by the way, have this story. Like, it's pretty
220
signature.
is max for most. The heart doesn't.
It's a max
really...
heart rate. Yeah. And I wasn't doing anything.
Right.
And at this point, I'm sitting there like I think I'm having a heart attack. I put a blood pressure monitor on, and it's really high. My blood pressure, it's like crazy high. And I'm like, all right, I need to go to the hospital, like right now. So I felt my arms, my legs were like going numb. I'm trying to like do everything I can to stay conscious. Get to the hospital. They run an EKG, all this stuff on me, and they're like, all right, yeah, something's not normal. They put me in the COVID wing because of all my symptoms, and things kind of stabilized, but not really. Heart rate was really, but again, you're at this hospital. They have nothing, no treatment. There's nothing then. You couldn't even do hydroxychloroquine. There was no treatment. There wasn't even there was nothing. They just give you an IV and they tell you to go home. This is what was going on. Okay. So I got sent home again after like 9 hours in the hospital. And my heart rate was like 120 sitting in the hospital bed. And the doctor's like, yeah, I mean, you're not going to die. It's fine. It's normal. I said, my resting heart rate's 55. This isn't normal. And they don't give a shit. And they send you home. You're young. You'll be fine. Send you home. That week, I had like episode after episode like that of these weird, what seemed like heart attacks. It's like, they call it dysautonomia. That's the term. Your entire autonomic nervous system, because of possibly likely neuroinflammation, becomes damaged and haywire. Digestion, heart rate, respiration. There was moments during that week where it just felt like I'd stopped breathing, like almost like my brain forgot to breathe. And again, lots of long haulers experience this, which is what we're called, people who have long COVID.
And how long have you had it? Since March till, are you
11 months now. 11
You're still
months.
in it now. Yeah.
I'm still in it. Yeah.
And
certain things got better. Other things have gotten worse.
Are you independently wealthy? Like, did you kind of crack so how did you manage your finances?
No, not at all. A lot of help. A lot of help from a lot of people. I was very reluctant, to be honest. I still didn't really put it out there, to be really honest. I was very reluctant to do like a GoFundMe. I didn't want to ask for help. I had a lot of ego. I didn't want people to know, where I was at or wasn't at. And I got, you kept thinking it was going to end. Like, all right, it's going to be 3 months. Or, all right, it's going to be, and then each month would go by and I'd be doctors and supplements. I mean, it's like $2,000 a month for the supplements you need to be healthy when you're chronically ill. And IVs and all these treatments, and none of it's covered by insurance. So even if you have insurance, which I do, it's not covered. So, you go to a regular doctor, it's antibiotics and steroids. That's all they got, by the way. There's no antivirals. There's none of that. And they don't, none of that. So you want to get your gut biome checked, it's $600 to see what's going on in your gut, to see where there's imbalances to maybe get better. You want to get ozone therapy, it's anywhere between $800 and $6,000, depending upon the type of ozone you get. High dose vitamin C, $300 an IV. So at one point I was finally like, all right, like I need help. So we did a GoFundMe and raised a decent amount. And then privately, a lot of good friends. Believe it or not, which I was telling you before, people with the least gave me the most. There's outliers. There was a couple of people I know who do really well, who sent me a lot, and I was grateful. But the people who had the least, across, like on the average, helped the most and check in on me the most.
Because you're a service provider, so you got paid when you were working. And right. And so then this idea that people with the least gave the most, why do you make sense of that?
I believe two pieces. I believe when people need to survive and aren't in this kind of up in their tower, I think they understand community and understand, well, if I help, someone's going to help me too. And there's a piece there of reciprocity. There's an awareness of that. And I think the other piece is people who have less definitely know what it's like in one way or another, and empathize more. I think in a lot of cases, and I'm generalizing sadly, but people who have a lot of times they have a lot because they're that way, and they don't give, and they don't, not always, of course not, but that's been my experience a lot of times.
What have you lost and what have you gained? If you can find something.
Material, I've lost everything. I had to get rid of my car. I had to get rid of my mic. I had a really, really expensive mic I had to sell. I had to leave my place. I lost my place, another place. I had a really, really nice place that I worked really hard for, that I, had to leave. I lost my health. I lost my quality of life, like the ability to do things, simple things like breathe. When I'm talking, I don't know if you can hear the hoarseness in my voice. Right now it's not horrible, but it's like this inflammation that goes from my stomach all the way up to my throat. And it gets to the point by nighttime where I literally have a hard time breathing. And just not realizing how special it is to not realize, you can just breathe air, like to just be able to breathe air without thinking about it. I have to kind of think about it. I have to consciously think about breathing when I try to go for a walk. I haven't been able to exercise in 11 months. If I try to, this is something where my whole life you Rocky shit. Like, all right, I'm going to beat this. This does not allow you to do that. It will punish you. Every time you try to fight out of this, it pummels you into bed for weeks. All your symptoms come back. So it took all of that away. The ability to use,
which in return was your first craft, your first expression, to your point, but also the way you were making money by training.
Everything.
Oh my God, Corey.
Everything. And just to be able to have that outlet for whatever your trauma, your rage, your anger, you have these ways of moving that energy that have been taken away from you. And the luxury of not having to immediately deal with your mortality has been taken away. And probably every day I have to think about what's going to happen when I die, just to prepare. Because if you looked at my blood work from a week ago, it looks like I have AIDS and cancer, and I'm not exaggerating, and I have the labs. And that's what they thought I had. They still think I may have some kind of lymphoma, and they want to run more tests because they just can't understand why my blood work looks like this. And they don't know enough. So I would say in that way, all that's been taken. What have I gained? I have gained so much wisdom and appreciation for such simple things that I was too ambitious for before. I couldn't be bothered with going for a walk because I had to work on this music, or I had to whatever the fuck. Like, I would say if I could go back, the lesson that I've learned from this is it's a huge mistake, in my opinion, to think you've got to fill this hole. You know, there's this hole that you're trying to fill. I'm going to be a famous fighter. I'm going to be a famous musician. It's like this kid that never grew up that's got to fill. And when I do, it'll all be better. And it's not true, you know? So I realized that going through this, I think I always felt that, and I would like shove it down. During my paths, like fighting, music, you know, I'd be studio. I got to do this thing. I got to do it. I got to do the thing. But it wasn't just about doing the thing. There was another piece that was not healthy, even with music. It wasn't for me, right? Mm-hmm. I had to prove something. And I spent so much energy and time and lost lots of relationships, good ones, or didn't enjoy enough relationships, good ones, friends, exes, whatever, because of this need to fill this fucking hole. And where I'm at now, I would give anything to just play. Like, I'd go back to, you know, when I was at Henzo's, man, I could have had 3 jiu-jitsu schools by now. I could have just been like, wait a minute, I've already got it made. I'm like a surfer. I get to come to these mats every day. I have this full community of people. I was talking to Jamie Crowder, another really famous fight coach. He's a striking coach, and he's one of my best friends. And we were just talking, and I was saying this to him. I said, man, you were smart. You were smart, man. He was like, it was like some Warren Buffett shit. Like, he saw it, and he stayed teaching and coaching. And it's sustainability. That's the other piece I think I understand in my wisdom. I never, as a young, ambitious, you know, athlete, whatever, with issues, I didn't realize that sustainability, that's wealth. That, like, having a thing you can do until you're, you know, I look at like Laird Hamilton. It was like, man, I mess around in the water. I can do this till I'm 70, you know, even with all his injuries. Like, I didn't think like that. And I wish I did. There's a lot of pieces like that where if it wasn't, and maybe this isn't for everyone, but if it wasn't, but this might connect with a lot of people, you know, those things are so short-lived, those things you're chasing. And there's all this abundance around. Like, I didn't even see it, man. Like, to me, jiu-jitsu, it was about being a fighter. It wasn't about where it should have been. Okay, I'll go for this, but like, this is what it's about. I have a community. I have a business I could end up doing because of who I'm under. And I could be barefoot all day, every day on the mats and like teach, which, you know what I'm saying?
I do.
Music, all of it. It's like, man, you've got a playground given to you and none of it's good enough because you got to go, you need to be this thing. And if you're not this thing, you're nothing. And it's a joke. It's not real. None of that's real. And if I could get to the other side of what I'm going through, I'm so grateful either way, but I'm so grateful because whenever it comes, and I'll do everything I can to get there, what I know now, like what I get now about what it's about, oh man, dude, it's simple. It's so simple. You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Corey, what do you think you're going to do next? Are you too deep in the weeds right now to kind of, muse about next? Or do you have a sense of what that might be?
It's a really good question. Because I think about it, but then I don't think I give myself permission to, because I'm afraid to get my hopes up. It's a weird battle I go through. Sometimes I think, okay, I need the carrot. I went through a moment during this on that Instagram where I changed it to my name. And I was like, I'm going to help everyone. This is what I'm going to do. I tried to motivate myself, and I was bedridden. Just tried to post about supplements and what I'm doing. And I tried to post videos, and I was wrecked. And I was like, shit, I can't even do that. So it's an interesting space to be in, to try to decide between, do I create a carrot to motivate me, or will it hurt me to do? And that's what's weird about this. This is unlike anything that people don't understand. If someone has chronic illness, chronic fatigue, ME, MS, long COVID, chronic Lyme, like all these weird things that get written off, and it's a small percentage of people. I'm very lucky. My blood work is so shot that it's undeniable that something is wrong. Because you look at me and it's like, well, is he sick? And it's like, yeah, really sick. People with lupus don't look sick on the outside. So, and their kidneys are failing, which I have really funky kidneys now. Like I have weird stuff going on in my kidney. All my organs are shot, like weird stuff. So I don't know. I would ask you too, what you think, like, which is healthier, to stay just day to day, which is what I try to do. I try to just, okay, today. And I try to like find joy, whether it's cooking when I can, or even just watching a good documentary or whatever. Or do you, it's just with this, it's unlike anything in that you can't rocky it. You can't go, I'm going to fight my way out of this. And it's all I've done my whole life. And it doesn't allow you to. You got to almost accommodate it.
Wow.
It's this thing inside you, whether it's the virus, that virus, or they think there's theories that it reactivated latent, like Epstein-Barr, and there's a theory that you get really sick and these other viruses turn on. And that's what's happening to me. That's a theory. Whatever it is, you have to accommodate it. Because when I try to like push through, oh, dude, wrecked. I mean wrecked. Like,
which is your model from when you were young, from fighting,
yeah,
from whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
To answer your question, I think that a key ingredient will be hope. And so whether you think about later or you're interpreting now, I think hope will be foundational as one of those first principles. This idea, this optimistic idea that something good's going to come down and I'm going to be prepared, for it, either in a mindset and approach or present moment experience or whatever. But, that hope piece is, we're not born with it. And so just kind of keeping it present, honoring it, I think is an important piece for people, that because it'd be so simple for you to be hopeless, right? The depression, hopeless. I mean, what's the difference?
So simple.
Yeah.
And you go through it. You go through these, going through this there's so much trauma. Mm-hmm. And, you're getting told one day you might have cancer, then they're telling you this, then they're telling you that. You go through a month where your oxygen's down to 78% and there's no one helping you and you're falling asleep at night everything becomes trauma, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was saying to you before, there was a huge period of like anger, like why me? Like I said, I got a friend whose dad's like 68, had a massive stroke, smoked 4 packs a day, diabetic, and he's like got COVID, he's fine. And I'm like, why me? Why me? I'm angry. And then like I said to you, I was like, of course me, because I'm like, I love to solve puzzles. I was like, he's like, whatever it is out there, writing this thing possibly, because I realized I'm in no control, gave me the biggest puzzle of all. And if there's anybody driven with all the tools and all the characteristics I have, it's me to try to figure this thing out. And I've gone to the edges of the earth, man. I've tried every treatment. I've run all the labs you can run. I mean, like a pincushion, like 30 vials each time. And the 3 things I've learned from it, which is pretty valuable, is we don't come close to Mother Nature. It's so much more sophisticated than us on a level. We're still cavemen. 2, like to add to that, for people to understand this, what I've learned, we know nothing about the immune system. Okay? I go to immunologists. Okay, that's their title. They don't have a clue what's happening to me, and they couldn't explain it. We know our world, I don't think we direct money into that or whatever. So the thing you learn from all this is, which I would tell people if they're chronically ill, be really careful, because when we're sick, we want snake water bad. We want the cure. And you will spend a lot of money for that. And there are a lot of people who prey on that. And I would be really careful. And like to your point, I would have hope, and I would be patient with yourself and trust the body. I don't think I did that enough. I think I was like, I need to get better now. And you don't have a choice on that.
Okay. Whew. As a reminder, that was just part 1 of this conversation, recorded in January of 2021. Now, let's jump right into part 2, recorded recently. All right, Corey. So it's been about a year since we last spoke. We've exchanged text messages and, been up to date as much as I can through text, but bring me and the audience up to speed since we last spoke.
A lot's happened. I'm not sure I remember the exact date, but or if you do, but I know it's definitely been at least about a year. And at the time, we were still trying to figure out what was going on with me. And there was a lot of confusion because of COVID. And, I was experiencing so much long COVID symptoms, and I was in these support groups, and I was matching so many things with long COVID. But I was like the sickest person, and not from an energy standpoint. That was the weird part, was, all these people had this vicious like fatigue and like chronic fatigue. And I didn't. I was kind of hyper, actually, which I later learned why I was hyper, just through research and watching the Huberman podcast a lot, and understanding dopamine and understanding the adrenal system, and when you're in survival mode, and things can, in certain people, I think, who are pre-wired, that wasn't happening to me. I wasn't tanked like that. I was sick. I was like chronically sick. And if I exerted myself, I'd get more sick, which is a form of ME and CFS. But it's different. It affects people differently. This is a whole thing that is very not looked at deeply by the medical community enough. I think there's just not enough money in it.
Okay, so did you have is your experience because of your diagnosis or your you got COVID, or is
Got COVID
you got COVID, and
for sure,
are
like
these
100%, like 100% had COVID, and right in the beginning, two of my clients were positive. I didn't have a test because there was no tests. They had some high end doctor who had access to it. We all were sick at the identical time with the identical symptoms, vicious fevers, couldn't breathe, desatting, pneumonia, the whole thing. I got really, really sick, really fucking sick.
okay? So fast forward though to the
And then when we spoke, I had been just chronically sick, fevers,
Mhm.
weight loss, the whole thing. And I'd get bouts where I'd start feeling better, and then I'd just boom. But again, my blood work that I was getting done was so much worse than every other long hauler. It didn't add up. And I don't remember, but I'll recap it. I don't remember if at this point I had seen the oncologist or not yet when we spoke, but I might not have brought it up on the last interview. I don't remember on the last part. But this is an important piece now. At the time, maybe it wasn't because I didn't think I had cancer. So after the fact, so I'd done all this research, doing all my own labs, and I was like, I think I have cancer. You spend enough hours of the day researching and going through PubMed journals, and you read all these weird things with copper, and my copper levels were high, my C-reactive protein, all of my inflammatory markers were like through the roof in a linear progression of elevation month after month, when everyone else post-COVIDs were like normalizing. My T cells were tanked still, where everyone else's were coming back to normal. My immune system, it looked like I had HIV or cancer. I went to an oncologist in Las Vegas, brought all my paperwork, told her everything, the whole story. She told me I was crazy. No way I have cancer. I had lymph nodes bulging out of my neck and my armpits, everywhere. She felt them. She's like, oh, I've seen this. I've seen this with Epstein-Barr. You're young. This is post-viral. You read too much. Why do you do so much blood work? You're going to drive yourself crazy. If this was cancer, I'd fall off my chair. Refuse to biopsy me. I'm begging her. She thinks I'm just neurotic.
which you are, by the way. Let's be clear.
Completely.
Okay.
Which,
Yeah. Good.
by the way, my neuroses saved my life.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, I was saying at that point in time, you were neurotic. Emotions were through the roof. Like you were searching for an answer.
I have a obsession with detail.
There you go.
A psychotic. It's probably a mental illness that saved my life. Like I have an obsession with detail and with subtle awareness of self. Like I have and this is real. It's my kinesthetic awareness is so deep, possibly a combination of being an athlete, trauma as a child, whatever it is, like neuroticness plus deep neuromuscular, neuro body awareness to a degree that I've this entire story, I caught things months before anyone else, and no one listened to me. And this is a theme in medicine that we're seeing constantly right now. The big term gaslighting and all this that doctors are doing.
Well, hold on real quick before you get onto that. Like what you're talking about is interoception, right? Which is this idea that you've got
that word. That's new for me. But yeah, I heard that word recently. Yes. My experience of my nervous system experience outside of my brain of interoception. Yes.
Yeah. So it's just you're highly attuned.
Highly.
Yeah. Okay. So, and you add that with some neuroses, and you add that with a heightened state of pain, and you add that with a very explanatory reason why everything is on tilt, including your emotions and your need to find a solution.
Yeah. Survival mode, lockdown. No one wanted to see you. I already went through months where like I'm being sent home and fucking can't breathe and all that. So yeah, I'm in this state of fight or flight It's like sympathetic nervous system nonstop.
And so this is when you reached back out, or it's not like we lost track.
I don't remember, but I just know that it was in August. I can tell you the date when I saw the oncologist. That was August 2020. She sent me home, told me I was crazy, right? I went on a witch hunt.
This sounds like the best of medicine, doesn't it? You're fine. Don't be so neurotic.
And it's a cancer doctor.
Yeah.
Who that's what it's like. If you have lymph nodes now, knowing what I know now, you check. You fucking check. So I go on this witch hunt. I start seeing every infectious disease doctor. I'm being tested fucking 40 vials of blood every week, every virus, every autoimmune disease. I'm negative for everything. So the infectious disease guy that I'm speaking with, this is after we spoke.
Mm-hmm.
He calls her because he's like, I think this might be cancer. I'm between seronegative lupus. I think it's that, or I think this kid's got cancer. She's like, this ain't cancer. She tells him. She was like, oh, he added labs to the labs I ordered. I don't want to see him again. Like, she was just really the worst of the worst human being, to be completely honest. And told him, no way it's cancer. This is in November. No way it's cancer. I went to that other guy, did all this special treatments, tried to do all these things. Everything just kept getting worse. So anyway, I start calling. I talk with you. I'm like, is there someone out there, you know? You connect me with David.
Dr. David Feigenbaum.
Yep. David Feigenbaum. And before I get connected to him, before me and him actually get to talk, I get an ultrasound done that shows tumors basically in my stomach, in my chest, all over. Mm. So this guy's like, now everyone's like, this is either cancer or it's some crazy fungal infection. So we're back to cancer. Another doctor, by the way, called me. There's a saying these doctors all say. So now we call me the zebra.
So zebra is a shorthand for
you're in North America and you hear a stampede, chances are it's not zebras. So he's like, everything about you's got COVID. Really, yeah, you maybe have some crazy rare cancer, but the chances, come on.
It should be a horse. It looks like it's probably a horse, but when you take a double look at it, it looks like a horse. But if you squint a little bit, you're like, wait a minute, that horse has stripes.
I start calling all these other oncologists in Las Vegas. Some reason none of them will take my case. I come to find out they're all under the same umbrella. So no one would see me in Vegas. I'm calling every top oncologist, people referring me, Google, whatever. And none of them would take my case. So I'm starting to really go into freak out mode because I'm sure at this point I can just feel it. I'm like, I got cancer.
Hold on, Rook, sorry to interrupt, but they wouldn't take you because you were labeled
as... I can't prove this, right? But clearly my interaction with her, whatever her notes were, they're all under the same group. They're all
psychosomatic. He's actually neurotic, and
probably
he needs to work with a psychologist, not an oncologist. He had them
add some labs at the lab that I didn't order, whatever she said about me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or just the fact that even if I had cancer, maybe to cover her ass, I don't know. Yeah, all I know is no one. And in Vegas, it's like there's one place. So I call UCLA. I find out my insurance sometimes does these one-time approvals with out of state, and mine does it with Stanford and UCLA. So I just scramble. I'm scrambling. Every day is like another day that this shit's spreading in my body. I get on the call with an oncologist, Dr. Shin. This guy is the most amazing angel human ever. Shout out Dr. Shin. And gets on a call with me. Within 4 minutes of the conversation goes, Corey, I'm going to say 95% you have lymphoma. No CT scan yet. no biopsy yet. Just a conversation. He said, you were right. I'm telling you that now. You were right.
You
when
break
went
down
to
in
the oncologist.
tears immediately, don't you?
Immediately. I'm
Yeah.
hysterical.
Relief, in love, like hope, the whole
And he
thing.
said,
Grateful.
you need a CT scan immediately.
Yeah.
He said, wait, go do a CT scan.
Mm.
Come to find out, it's everywhere. Lungs, stomach, my entire spleen was diseased, stage 4. Whole spleen was completely replaced with multifocal disease. So it was just tumors, my spleen. So my spleen wasn't working. Get a biopsy, Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Mm.
Very rare disease. Like super rare, usually young people with more active immune systems. So he calls me and he's like, it's cancer, it's stage 4.
And for folks that don't understand stage 4.
So stage 4 is once it's above and below the diaphragm, once it is spread and metastasized to a degree outside of a more local area, is when it's stage 4. If it gets to the bone marrow, it's also stage 4, but it doesn't have to. Once it's outside of the lymphatic system and it spreads to an organ, it's stage 4. Mm-hmm. Also, like I said, above and below the diaphragm. So,
this is problematic. This is like,
yeah, it's no joke.
Yeah,
it's serious shit. Now, fortunately, with Hodgkin's, you have a better shot. Statistically, it's better than like other, like, lung cancer stage 4. It's like 30%. Stage 4 Hodgkin's, it's like 70%. Chance. But it depends on a lot of things. I had a lot going against me because of how long. So a lot of the prognostic markers that mean not as good of an outcome were at that point. So my LDH, remember that number we were talking about? Mm-hmm. So high is 230, right above 220 is high. Mine was 230 when that oncologist said I didn't have it. By the time I got to chemo, before we started, it was 420, which is like not good.
Where's Feigenbaum in this?
So he comes in, and goes, he says, so before I got diagnosed, we got on a call. Yeah. And he said, this is either Castleman's,
which is what he's known for.
Yep.
So for clarity for folks listening, Dr. David Feigenbaum, he was on the podcast, legend. He's known as a disease hunter. And so as soon as you and I connect, I'm like, hold on.
Yeah.
Let's pull in, the legend, and you guys sync. And so then what happens? What's the next step for you?
So I talked to Feigenbaum, right? And he's like, I get diagnosed, I do the, biopsy. Then I had to have a bone marrow biopsy, which was gnarly. It was like days in a row, and one after another. And then we start chemo, and this is crazy. So we start chemo, and I'm ready to fucking go. I'm in ketosis, which again is theoretical, but the concept behind that, by the way, is that cancer feeds on glutamine and it feeds on sugar, glucose. That's why a PET scan is a radioactive glucose. So if you have glucose in the body, cancer can feed on it metabolically. So the theory is if you starve the cancer cells of carbohydrates, you have a better shot at letting the chemo do its thing. Not going to cure you without chemo, but they keep growing. So if you slow down the growth plus hit it with chemo, which just fucking nukes it, you got a better shot. All the other cells in your body can run on ketones. Cancer can't.
Do you have your fingertips on some of that research that I could take a look at?
100%. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And okay, I'd like to read it, and then I hear what you're saying is like it's not like it's the golden standard or the gold standard. So, but I'd like to read it.
But if you ask any, if you ask an oncologist, if it's not a double-blind placebo study, they're not going to tell you to do it. But, Walter Longo's work on cancer, which is mostly with mice. I don't know if you know about Walter Longo. His research was on cancer patients and having that. And by fasting around chemo, similar concept. When your body's in a starvation state, all the other cells in your body go into like a protection mode. Cancer cells don't know how to do this. So it's the idea of that is that by doing that around chemo, you're hoping the chemo doesn't fuck up your own healthy cells and it only gets the cancer cells. That's the theory. And in mice, it works. And they've had good anecdotal results in small trials on people. So I was doing both keto, and then I would water fast for 3 days around chemo. Just no joke. It's not easy at all. It's pretty intense. So first chemo, go through it. I feel awful. Like I didn't know about tumor lysis syndrome. Essentially, when you got a big tumor burden in your body, the first few chemos, they hospitalize. Some people die even. There's such a toxicity release of cytokines from the cancer cells when they die. So if you got a lot of cancer, you get really sick when those cells die. So the first 1 or 2 chemos, if you've got a heavy tumor burden, I was like this close to going to the hospital day 3 because you got steroids in you. So the first 2 days aren't horrible. They're manageable. But when that dexamethasone starts wearing off, that's when you feel it. I was like shaking, and it was almost like what I've seen when you see like someone detoxing from like heroin or actually like alcohol. I was kind of like shaking and had these vicious headaches. But I mean, I have a crazy pain threshold, and this was like unbearable to where I almost went to the hospital. And I researched while I was shaking, curled up in a ball, and I found this tumor lysis. I believe it's called tumor lysis syndrome. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like once I knew what it was, I'm like, let me try to ride this bitch out. And I just sat curled in a ball. And it passed after like 6 hours. And then it was and you kind of come out of it after a few days. And dude, I felt so good about 5 days after the first chemo. I felt better than I had felt in a year. It was insane. I was like, whoa. I was like, I can do this. Okay, 3 days of hell, 4 days, and then I feel like this. All right, let's go. Next chemo, they fuck up, kind of. And I caught it. I don't want to say fuck up, but they did. Again, details. I weigh myself every single morning, naked after I pee. I know my weight. And then I pound a bunch of water or whatever. So the one drug, which is the most neurotoxic, they do it based on weight. So the first dose I got was 80 milligrams. And let me put you like this. Before each round, they recheck your blood, all those markers we talked about, which there's more. My LDH was 420, right? It came all the way down to 210 from one chemo.
Cool. Yeah. Jeez.
My SED rate was 85, which is crazy. Above 15 is high. Okay. It came down to like 14. Like it was almost like all the cancer died. So anyway, I called the doctor. I was like, man, I feel really good. Is this normal? He's like, yeah, all that inflammation's come down. So anyway, next round, they upped the dose because they thought my weight went up. They're weighing me in shoes, in clothes, and I drank a bunch of water. Like with drugs like this, again, this is something I see with medicine, with everyone's kind of robotic and not detailed enough. And I'm really sensitive, I guess, to shit. So they upped the dose of the drug because they thought I gained some weight back. I didn't. I was the same weight. It hit me way harder, and I didn't know they upped the dose. First 2 days I was fine from the steroids. The third day, I got really bad bronchial inflammation, and you can still hear I have a hoarse voice. My voice was almost gone, could barely talk. And I was really looking forward to singing because, like, after the first chemo, I'm like, oh, I can make music through this. This is going to be great. I'll just fucking ride out those 3 days and then I'll make music and this will be fucking great. Voice was gone. Like, I mean, gone to where I was like scared. Like, I couldn't talk. And then it kind of was coming back and I got hit really hard that round. Like, I mean, like, I just felt like I got electrocuted, like my whole brain, my body. But again, after about 4 days, you kind of shake it off. And then I felt great. Other than the voice, that was gone still, but just my energy. So we do another round at that higher dose. And I wake up with what feels like bronchitis. My lungs feel really inflamed. Voice is shot. And I'm really fucked up. I can't walk good. My balance is off. I feel my nervous system got really wrecked. Call the doctor. And I'm like, hey man, did you like up the dose or something? And he's like, yeah, the last 2 rounds, your weight went up. I said, no, it didn't. My weight's been the exact same weight every morning. I'm like, you guys are weighing me when I come there and I have clothes. I'm like, that's not an accurate. I'm like, we need to lower the dose. I said, I think I have bronchial like damage or inflammation. He's like, I'll get an x-ray of your lungs. I said, yeah, but it's not my lungs. I think it's bronchial. I can feel where it is. Sure enough, x-ray, diffuse bronchial wall thickening, suggestive of airway disease. So now I've got this like chronic, this went on for the rest of chemo, like asthma. Voice gone. We lower the dose. I start getting neuropathy at this point, a little bit in my fingertips, like numbness. We keep going. Next round. My hair's still long. They couldn't believe it. I wasn't losing any hair. I was like, oh, it must be the fasting and the keto. Wasn't losing my hair. We got to the halfway point. So 3 months in. And I'm shadow boxing and walking 3 miles a day. Up hills. I didn't do that all of post-chemo, post-COVID. I thought, and my immune system was tanked. That's why I think there's an autoimmune component. My immune system was my white blood cells were so low. I wasn't getting infections though, probably because of all my protocols. And I felt better than ever. It was weird. And then this is when things went south. So I started noticing some things, some neurological and nerve things, but very mild. And he's like, we're going to give you this bone marrow stimulant because your white count's really low. So I'm like, okay. And mind you, I'm like traveling back and forth from Vegas to LA this whole time. There's a lot of stress, which couldn't have helped with my nervous system. Like a lot, like the whole time I'm not in a Zen space. I'm in like war mode. This isn't like, I get to stay in one. I have to go back and forth. I'm getting Airbnbs. And then I have to come back because it's like $5,000 each time. I'm trying to raise money and it was insane. It was very stressful. The whole thing. It was not easy. And it's all, so anyway, they give me this injection. And right away, I felt like I was paralyzed, like within 4 hours. My whole spine felt like inflamed and I couldn't move. I couldn't move. It felt like I was in a car accident. And I call the doctor. And I literally I can't move. I said, it feels like my whole spinal cord is like inflamed or something. And he's like, let's see if it calms down. Sure enough, within about 3 or 4 days, it chilled out and I kind of bounced back. But then my nerves didn't feel right. Like in my arms, my legs, I started getting weird pains in my legs, weird things started happening. Each round, we had to keep doing those shots to keep my white count up.
What is your spiritual framework?
After or before this?
Oh, interesting. Before.
Before this, my spiritual framework was, I definitely had more belief in things that were conspiring. I had the alchemy belief. And if I can be candid, not to be a bummer, but it's not a bummer to me from my perspective of what I'm going to say, but I think it's literally algorithmic chaos. I think from what I've seen and what I've gone through and what I've seen now that I've been in it, and I've been around other really, really sick people that people don't see when they send their vibes, and really good people who suffer unimaginable things. I can't anthropomorphize a God, which is what I think people do. So therefore I don't know, but I know that it's an algorithm of chaos. If there is a God, it's not something that I can give human characteristics to, because if it had them, these things wouldn't happen. So it's beyond, I'd be insulting to it to give it human. If there is something, it's so beyond me that I refuse to be like, oh, there's a God, but he's an asshole.
Okay.
Like I refuse to do that. It's like, it's what we do with dogs. We anthropomorphize, we make everything human.
And so not everyone's going to be familiar with, that phrase, but really it's when you take characteristics and, you make explanations and put them, into human terms, right? Like, so
I see that
having human characteristics, something has human characteristics.
What I see in my experience now, which again, it's only right now,
Yep.
from my perspective now, which can change, is everyone's hedging their bets. It's like everyone is a handicapper, and the people who really kill it in life are better handicappers. They're better statistics. And look, to be the best sports bettor, you only got to win like 54% of the time, and you're like a millionaire. And you're like the shit. I think everyone in life, I think you're going outside and you're interfacing with the most quantum, most complex fucking algorithm of chaos ever. And your job is to hedge your bets and act accordingly. And I think that's something I didn't understand. I really believed I was entitled to everything. And I really truly believed that the universe conspired for me. I don't believe that anymore. I believe that you are given, whether it's by randomness or there's a creator, whatever, you're given these rules in this game and this system and this computer and this brain and this body. And you need to act according, you need to follow, and then you need to play the math. Like, I think math is like the true language of it all. And it's all statistics. I mean, that's what I see. I see it in everything I've gone through. Everyone's guessing.
Well, science is born out of hypotheses, which is like, I think, in my most educated kind of creative way,
Right. Sure.
I think this is how it's working. Then we run some research to say, no, or yeah, like that's how we go from,
Right.
theory to fact,
Right. But even when it's fact, they're playing numbers. Like with cancer, we're 2022, right? They're still have no clue if you're going to have cancer or not until you're done. They have no way of knowing.
Yeah,
even the most sophisticated testing that we have, they don't know. A PET scan does not tell you if you still have micro cancer cells or not. That's why you have to do it every 6 months.
So therein lies why you're saying that, this idea of anthropomorphism, which again, for clarity, is the attribution of human traits on something that's not human.
I think there's too much suffering and too much randomness to give a creator, a human. If there is, it's beyond that's where I'm at. It's so beyond me that I'm like, it's randomness, it's chaos. Be really nice to each other. and be really, really fucking grateful. Sorry for cursing. Be grateful that you can walk. I can't walk well right now. I have days where I'm falling in the shower. I have to try to get home care. I can't talk good. My hands go numb. I'm having really strange vascular issues. I had to have neck surgery 2 weeks after my last chemo, emergency surgery because of the Neupogen shots, and they caused all this damage in my spine. I'm all kinds of fucked up, and you want to celebrate, right? You want to say, "Oh, I'm can't," because by the way, cancer free. We beat that shit. So no cancer for now, according to my PET scan. It's all gone.
Do you say for now as a hedging of the bet, or
hedging of the bet? Because you can relapse. They can't see the microcells. So you don't know if you wiped. All it takes is cancer is one stem cell. That's how it starts, as one cell. So if there's one left, it can come back all over again.
Okay.
You catch one cold, and they have no clue other than keep checking with this intense amount of radiation every 6 months. And it's another thing, by the way, to the defense of oncologists, to the defense of science and Western medicine. Another phenomena that I encountered during this is, don't do chemo, man. It's toxic. Don't do that shit. Joe Dispenza can meditate your cancer away. Take CBD, all this bullshit. Okay. And let me tell anyone who's listening, if you have stage 4 cancer, good luck with that. It's no joke. And it's really easy. Everyone, by the way, who sends me that shit never had cancer. Not one cancer patient reached out to me and said, dude, don't do the chemo. I had stage 4 cancer. I didn't do chemo. I just did, meditation and CBD and it cured. Not one human ever.
What do you hope people get out of this conversation? Because you're going to pay some taxes for this.
Yeah. And it's so hard to get it all in, right? There's so much I want to say. And there's so much to this experience. There's just so much. There's too much. And I don't know what's going to happen to me. I think with the neuropathy, I have severe neuropathy. I woke up two rounds till the end. I all of a sudden couldn't walk. It was like I was paralyzed. And we stopped 1 round early because of that. We did 1 more round after that, and we removed the 1 drug. It didn't help. And I literally couldn't use my hands, dropping things. I still have trouble. It's amazing I'm holding this phone. And the only thing keeping me going, that was the thing when you asked me that question, the really important thing that I'm still figuring out is like, what's keeping me going, right? Like truth, like where's the quality of life at this point? Most of my day I'm in bed. This is like the highlight of my day. This is amazing. And I'm waiting, and I don't have anyone here. I'm trying to get home care. Trying to raise money for therapy, because the type of physical therapy I need likely is going to cost cash. It's not going to be covered by insurance. I want to be really clear. You do not embody, since I've known you, a victim mentality.
No.
A victim approach to life. A woe is me. If anything, it's been the opposite. Like I'm an ass kicker. I figure things out and, bet on me.
Yeah.
So I want to be really clear, because I'm about to ask our community to chip in, and to find, do you have a way for people?
I have a GoFundMe, and which I was really reluctant to do, which we did during chemo, just to, like I said, the Airbnbs alone were $5,000 for, it's for like a week and a half while you're in LA. And then we're going back and forth. And I have a GoFundMe. And what I need now, which I'm doing, there is no victim here. We're going to fight until we beat it, everything. And I'm back hiking and walking and running and laughing, and I'm able to function, or I'm going to die trying. That's it. That's what I've done through all of this. I haven't stopped. I'm not going to stop now. But I think where I'm at now, and the thing that's important is a few things, which is, it's a lot. I know it's so hard to, but I'd say gratitude. I see everyone every day, just, and I think myself included prior to this, I made my life so fucking, I probably said this on the last part too, so much more complicated than it needed to be, so much more stressful than it needed to be. And it's really basic. Get amazing sleep, wake up with the sun, go to bed. You know what I mean? Like eat ridiculously healthy food. I mean, which is another conversation of what that means, because everyone's like really disoriented with that. But like, if knowing what I know now, which is always the case, sadly, I would have done everything different. And if I think what's keeping me going is the chance, the hope and the chance to get to a place where I can actually fully realize and exercise all that I've learned, because the wisdom now is on another level. And I would do anything. I'd give anything to just get to a place where I can go for a long walk, where I can have day, where I don't have all these weird issues, where I can't just go do those basic things and enjoy it because it's all I want. Like, I don't give a fuck about anything else anymore. It's like you strip it all down. This was the most beautiful gift ever. I guess either way it was, regardless of what happens to me. But the truth is, if I can get back to a reasonably functioning state, this was the greatest gift ever. Because I give no fucks about all the things I used to consume myself with. And life has become so clear about what it is and what it's about. And it's like, take care of yourself. Because you don't, hedging, right? You don't know your genetics that well. And you don't know what's underlying. And we all like push it. And it's always until you end up like this that it's like, oh my God, I figured it out. And it's like, I don't know if the human condition will ever get to a place, but if in some way I can, with everything I've been through, the biggest message I would say is gratitude on a daily fucking basis, and simplify, like psychotically simplify, and watch how much happier you'll be. Like an antidepressant, even with everything I went through, by following those rules of getting sleep with the circadian rhythm, getting sunlight in the morning, eating the way I was eating, I killed it. Considering the doctors couldn't believe it. It still got to me. This stuff is toxic. I was in it for 6 months and I'm wrecked now, but I'm going to do the same thing as long as I can to try to rebuild. But like, that's the message, I guess, that I would give, that I truly learned from all this, is like, you're given this thing and it works on a quantum level with all of everything around you, with your environment, light, your mind, your body, your nervous system, what you were talking about, the nervous system and the autoimmune disease. I'm on that right now. I realize that I was in this sympathetic nervous system state, which a lot of people are in that don't have cancer, constantly. And by the way, for people who don't know, sympathetic is not calm.
It's this fight or flight. So it's called sympathetic dominant, or, eventually leads to some sort of adrenal burnout or adrenal fatigue. Yeah. Which is which is obviously going to create massive health compromises. But I hear you saying gratitude, simplification. Like, those are two big bright things. And then if I were to double dip here on this type of thinking, say, how do you finish this thought? My heart is yearning for
peace.
And then life is
a gift. Act accordingly. Don't take it for granted. Act accordingly. It's a gift. You're lucky. And you're not special. You're lucky that you even have one. So just act accordingly. That's what I would say.
Jesus, dude. Okay. It's so sobering coming from you.
Huh.
It's so sobering.
It's like a friend of mine said, you know, this is a huge one. She said, I've never heard an artist like admit this. And I was like, I'm probably done with music. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm just done. I was like, I'm done. And she was like, why? And I said, well, it was never about the music. So it was never about the music. It could be cooking, it could be painting, it could be anything. I said, for me, there's two things that music was about, and it wasn't music. My brain loves to like figure out puzzles. And for me, music was like the hardest puzzle. It was like to make a song do what it's supposed to do was just, I was obsessed with that, with figuring that out. And my brain just finds things like that. So it could be anything. And music is part of what put me, looking back, and other things, because they were the same thing, in that overly sympathetic nervous system state. I wasn't balanced. It took away, you know, I was an athlete. I was way healthier before me. You know, music put me into this purely because of my personality, whatever. I spent 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, not sleeping, trying to figure it out. Maybe I'm an addict and it's just not heroin. You know what I mean? And so I need to stay away from all that shit. You know, and I see that now.
You know, it's like, let me tell you my response is that I'm laughing right now, but it's because of the journey you just took me on, which is it's not about the music. Now, my first reaction was so selfish, dude. Just now, I was like, oh no, I loved what you created. The one song that I know, and I'm like, oh no, I want more of that. And then you're like, yeah, it wasn't good for me. And then I kind of went, yeah, okay, I kind of hear him. And then I'm like, wait, hold on. What are you doing, Mike? This is my inner experience. Like, what are you doing, Mike? Yeah, because what you did was you created something that moved me.
Yeah.
And I don't know who it moves, but it moved me.
It moves every person. Like that song.
Yeah.
Of all I did the thing. It's the one.
You did the thing.
That's the thing where any person, old, young, that hears that, it moves them, and it's felt. And sorry, I have to lay back down. Kind of sit back down. But
you cracked the code.
I did.
It took you.
That's what it took me 5 years.
And 12 hours a day in like poorly lit rooms, hunched over, not eating, drinking, whatever. And right.
Yeah, damn, like back and forth trips to LA, not eating well. You're in the studio, you're looking for dopamine all day, you're eating candy, you're anything, you know, drinking tons of coffee. But I did it. And then I was like, and I could do the same thing again. And I really could, but I know how imbalanced it makes me.
Mm-hmm.
And with everything I went through when I just got sick, I didn't give a shit about that. I cared about walking. I cared about breathing. I cared about eating. I cared about being able to laugh and hug people. I'm not fucking around. I'm not being dramatic. I'm not being romantic. I tell people this, anyone I can speak to, you will not give a fuck about any of that shit when you are really staring at death. You won't. You'll care about people you love. And you hear this, I've heard it, never hit me until I didn't care. Yeah, I cared that I told people, hey, make sure my song gets streamed like crazy if I go. Of course, that's the ego. Remember me. But the truth, I didn't regret that I didn't get to make more music. I'm just being fucking honest. If this bums people out that think I'm like rock star till I die, which I am in a different way. But the truth is,
yeah.
I regretted not spending more time with really good friends because I had to figure this song shit out. Because, you know, my ambition was just so important and I was so self-important. I regretted being that way even in relationships. I regretted not going for more walks. Like, all I want to do is go for a fucking walk. And when I was able to during chemo, it was like, it's like my dog, you know, and who I had to give away because I was so sick. But, you know, you see a dog, it's like the happiest time of their life. You take them for a walk. Just go for a walk, get sun on your face. Like, I didn't look back and go, damn, like all I looked back, I thought, I wish I walked more. I wish I laughed more. I wish I spent way more time with my father. I wish I spent way more time with my good friends. And I fucking mean that with every cell in my fucking body. And my only thing keeping me going, where I'm still fucking fighting, because I'm going to get there or die trying, is so I could do that shit. Not so I can make another fucking song and be all alone and obsessed with myself. It's so I can do that, because that's what I think life is about.
So you've heard me talk about the doing and being parts of the human experience.
Yeah.
And we're in reverse order, which is what you're describing, which is most of us have consumed a model which is, or digested and swallowed and having a hard time metabolizing this model, which is I need to do more.
Right. I need to be more.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So,
opposite.
and then, yeah, it's flipping it. And so I need
Flip
to be more and let the doing flow from there, whatever that doing is.
Yeah.
And so this is what I hear you talking about. It's what I've learned from people of wisdom, is the being is the foundation. Now you have some say in how you are going to be you.
Yeah.
You have say in that. Not to be too philosophical here, but we co-create our life. You know,
Fair.
Yeah, right. We co-create it.
Yeah.
And so you can figure out for your model who the co-creation is with.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
You
So
build it. You that's like, you're still an artist. That's what I meant. It's not about the music. Now my painting, my song, the obsession is that life. Where I'm at now in here, what's giving me any dopamine left, if the adrenals aren't fully tanked, is the visions, right? Like, why I would be manic making music is I had this carrot. Now it's fucking, you know, it's nature, it's the farm, it's the wife, it's the possible kid, it's the family, it's the community, it's tribe, it's all the things that actually strengthen us and sustain us. All the other shit is fleeting.
You know, okay, so we're speaking the same language, and I have a hard time actually getting to it sometimes. It's not an intellectual exercise. It is actually kind of moving some of the stuff out of the way to get to the truth of it. And it was one of the reasons why we fired up the podcast, was to get to this part of the conversation.
Right.
With hopefully, yeah, but with all humans, you know, it is like, but here's what I found. I'm sorry, the extraordinaries.
Right.
And the idea is that, you know, they're coming back from a mountaintop, or they're at the mountaintop, or they're close to the mountaintop, and like, what is your psychology about? Like, how are you experiencing life? And I say all that because I am highly sensitive to and nauseated by the performative aspect of life. And you say, wait, Mike, you say you're a high performance psychologist. Like, what are you talking about? When something is pure and true, the performative aspect has faded away, and it is absolutely a beautiful syncopation. And it's the syncopation that I go, I'm amazed by, and I'm captivated by. And so when somebody, and when I do it too, like I'm not immune to this, what I would say, much smaller part of me as a relative to when I was younger, which is like, I want to present favorably. And I gag. I gag internally first. When I notice that I'm doing it, I'll start to gag. And then this is a long way of me saying that I would love to watch your days, because I know that you are not going to perform. Even if there was 5, 10, 15 cameras, I would love to watch the purity of you making micro choices and acting in complete alignment with your quote unquote true self. And so that seems like I'm just getting a sliver of it right now. And it is intoxicating and refreshing and sobering is the word I used earlier. Many of us
Like
are,
I even contemplated changing, and this is a silly thing. I'd love to, it's a silly thing, but it's not a silly thing because this is something humans do, right? Because who the fuck am I? But it's like this, do I change my Instagram name? Like even something like that. And I want to, but everyone like, it's like this weird
wait,
little
what is
thing.
your, I don't get it. What
Punk
is
the
your Instagram?
Bunny is my
Punk the Bunny is your
artist.
Instagram.
That's my artist name. And not just, for production, for writing. I created this alter ego, Punk the Bunny, by the way, which I don't know if I explained it in the first half, but it was because my vision was an animated character was going to be the front person. And this came from my ex's father, who was a pretty famous producer. Shout out Tom Rothrock.
What type of production?
He produced Beck. He produced Foo Fighters. He's the real deal. Okay, he did Loser, man. He did that first album. He's a genius. And I hope this stays in because shout out to him for this. He said to me, ZZ Top was brilliant because they started old with the beards, so they could go on forever, and their look was the same. They didn't look like they got old, and that stayed. And he would kind of we'd have these little talks, and he'd mentor me. He was great. I didn't get to have a lot of them with him. He traveled a lot, but I'm a sponge. And I was like, I know what I'll do. I'm in my 30s. I'm not one of these 17-year-old TikTok hip hop kids, but I can make all this dope music. I'm going to make a bunny animated character. I still want to do it I did it twice with 2 animators. It's just, if you don't have Pixar money, getting someone to get that really realized in a dope way is hard. It's not easy, but we almost did it while I was sick with COVID. I had 2 different animators try to do it, but that was my vision. That's what Punk the Bunny is, for anyone who's wondering, was I wanted to be able to forever do this like character, like the Simpsons, who never age. So I could just make music forever. That was the reason.
Marshmallow.
Yeah, exactly. There's a genius to that. So anyway, digression aside, I was like, oh, should I change it to just Corey and me? And I wanted to put like mastering the art of becoming nobody, because that's my goal now. My beautiful vision is to like blend. My entire life was this narcissistic, I have to be this to be loved. I have to become this thing. And now I just want to blend in. I want to like achieve the mastery of being like regular and being completely happy with that. Good luck, humans. That's fucking badass. That's a fucking rock star. Do you know what I mean? And I get that now, and it makes me want to cry sometimes because I'm hurting. And I can't go do that yet. Most of my day, this is badass. Most of my day, I'm laying on this bed. And I'm just on fire right now, and this is great. And I'll take 2 days of bedriddenness after this for this talk. But that's where I'm aiming for. To just realize that, dude, this whole fucking thing around you is a giant, like, beautiful playground for you. It's meant for you to enjoy. I didn't enjoy shit because I was so ambitious. It all just goes by you. Where all you got to do is walk outside and it's all here for you. People, sun, trees, fucking, I could go, whatever. You know what I mean? It's all just here. And like, yeah, anyway, I'm going But I know you get what I'm saying.
Dude, I'm so wanting that for you. Like,
It's
so,
all I want, Mike. It's like, that's my goal now. That's the carrot.
yeah.
That's it. So I'm like,
Mm.
I'd rather use the platform to express this and find a way when I get the energy, because I have to wait and heal first. So I can't be like trying to post every day and put pressure on myself. But I wanted to share this. I want this message of, yo, like, it's cool to be regular. It's cool to just be. That's cool. Fuck being lit. Fuck all that shit. You're going to waste so much time because there's an algorithm. You're hedging. You could be the most talented, whatever person in the world. It's like 0.001%. Play better odds. You know where there's better odds? In people, in your family, in your friends. The likelihood of that reciprocity coming back to you when you invest in that is so much higher than becoming a famous musician, becoming a famous athlete. I'm not saying some people go for it, whatever. But I'm just saying, like, play the odds better. And there's so much more happiness.
Well, your purpose is clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, your purpose is really clear right now.
The last thing I'll say, because I have so much to say, but the last thing from going through this, it's like so much clarity. I got to say, you know who I envy now, Mike? I watch these envy. I'm saying that tongue in cheek, but I watch these documentaries and I see guys like David Geffen, and I see guys like I just went blank, Interscope, but I went blank. Chemo Brain, sorry, man. Super famous. He was this, CEO of Interscope. They did the Defiant Ones, that documentary on him and Dr. Dre. I'm just blank. Jimmy Iovine, thank God.
Jimmy Iovine.
Fuck Chemo Brain. So Jimmy Iovine, and you know what these guys did? And a lot of people I'm starting to admire were guys who at a young age were in the vibe, in the scene, and they were smart enough and humble enough, or maybe they had just enough, like, I have to survive mentality. Huberman, that Dr. Huberman, his story is very similar. I don't know if you know him or of him. He was around a bunch of skateboarders. Was in that vibe, in that scene. But he had some estrangement with his family, whatever. And he was like, I better go to college and follow this path because I'm more likely to succeed and I can't afford not to. Jimmy Iovine, I'm not going to be a fucking musician. The guys I envy now in these stories, and maybe that's just right now, and not to become them, by the way, but the mentality of like hedging your bet better and being more realistic and being cool with that. They ended up being so uber successful, more than all the artists that they represent, by just being actually like more grounded. It ended up taking off anyway. They weren't chasing anything other than like, shit, I gotta like be okay. And it turned into that. Anyway, I don't know if that's gonna come across or translate to people, but my whole life was this whole like, I gotta be this thing. And meanwhile, that thing doesn't even reward you that much. You're isolated and alone because you're on this fucking crazy, impossible journey. And like, yeah, anyway, I'm going in circles about the reinforcing the invest in your friends, real good friends, invest in people, invest in your community. So that's the message that I hope this can get in is what I've learned from all this shit. Once you're left all alone with yourself, facing death, facing all this shit, I realized none of that meant a fucking thing. Instagram did none of it meant a thing. I missed Jamie. I missed you. I missed the talks. I missed the laughs. I wanted more. Anyway, that's the thing. That's what life is, and everyone's lost that. That's dope, man. That will give you so much antidepressant, so much better sleep, so much better than any of this bullshit. and like it's proven even in science that the immune system does better when there's tribe and not in isolation. What's the worst punishment in prison?
Isolation. What's the
Even when you're
what's the worst thing you can do to another human? Ignore them. It's one of the most aggressive things you can do.
And meanwhile, myself included, tons of people are weirdly doing that to themselves because they need to be more.
Yeah.
And they don't.
Jeez, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Corey.
I hope that all like you can.
Nah, man. What a gift, dude.
God,
and
man.
So I want to check back in, on the pod. Obviously we stay in touch, but I want to check back in the pod in a little bit and just allow people to, be part of your adventure here.
Yeah.
And I just want to encourage right now, folks, to I want to speak right to our community for a minute, which is, I hope that when you listen, that you're putting yourself into a position to not only feel what Corey's feeling, but feel the pain and disconnect you have in your life. And as maybe a way to make a commitment towards healing is you can do two things. The first is to invest in the quality of your life by being more of who you want to be, who you know you are capable of being, which is always available to you in the present moment. However, you need some clarity. And that clarity is to know, what are the guiding principles in my life? Corey has spent a long time, explaining some very clear guiding principles about relationships, about gratitude, and about being present with wherever he is and with whomever he is with.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the first place I'd love to just put a really sharp stick gently into your back, is to say, remember this part of you. And the second is to make an investment in Corey's adventure. And I don't say this lightly, but I hope that you can be part of it and support him. And there's a GoFundMe page that the link is going to be available if you can find the link in the show notes. And then also, Corey, will you just share the best place that if people are only audio right now, that they could stop right after you say it and go punch over and get the credit card, connected
Yeah,
to your account.
it's on GoFundMe and
GoFundMe.com/
it's Corey Coopersmith Cancer Fund.
Okay, spell it all out. Corey,
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 Coopersmiths. So Corey Coopersmith's Cancer Fund. Yeah. And our goal right now with where we're at, it looks like the doctors are saying it's going to take about 6 months to a year, if at all. For the nerves take a really long time to heal. I'm suffering from pretty severe peripheral neuropathy and autonomic dysfunction. Basically, the chemo just destroyed the nerves everywhere in my body. And my goal is to seek out the top neuro retraining specialists, physical therapy specialists who want to, be part of this journey, because I will do whatever it takes to get back to fighting form, so to speak. And it's going to cost money. So we're trying to raise anywhere between another, $20, $30, even $40,000. So that over the next 6 months to a year, I can just focus on healing this, so I could get to a life of helping and healing others who are going through this. Because I will 100% do. I will make so much of my life about guiding people who are going through cancer, going through chronic illness, and learning and developing myself, whether it's through psychology resources and or physical therapy resources, to be able to coach people and help people through this, because I've been through it and I see how broken the system is. And I know how much fire and how much of a sponge I am of learning and understanding and teaching. So to get me there, I got to get back on my feet and I got to get functioning. And it's not going to be an easy task. There's a lot of broken parts and pieces. So that's why we need the help. And anyone that can donate and help, it's going to go towards that. I will be posting on my Instagram all my progress. And I'll be updating the GoFundMe with all my progress every, every time, every session, every physical therapy session, everything. So, yeah, so I appreciate that. Anyone that's helping, I greatly appreciate it.
And that's felt. I also want to add a third thing maybe folks can do is make a difference in your life. Maybe add some support to Corey through the GoFundMe. And then the third is to use the power of your own consciousness, the collective consciousness, and whatever your spiritual framework might be, or the idea of focused concentration to be able to, at mass, at scale, send you love, send you healing, send you, the good stuff. And so,
yeah.
Say it again.
I hope it didn't get lost in translation, and I don't know if this will make it or not, but it's fine. I just, even if it's a short part, but I don't not believe in positive energy, positive thinking. I believe it's been proven. I don't need to believe. Again, I think that's the point. Where I'm at now is it's not a belief thing. I like when things are, where mechanisms are proven. We know for sure the immune system, the nervous system, all is regulated by positive versus negative thinking. So yeah, positive energy, good vibes, that stuff's all beautiful. And I don't not believe in that. I just don't woo-woo things anymore. And I like when mechanisms, what we're seeing is mechanisms are being uncovered more and more that these things work, but we now know why. And I like that more. That's all.
I like it too. All right, Corey, thank you for your presence.
I love
your
you.
Articulation. Oh yeah, dude. I love you too, man.
I love you. These are the biggest gifts, man. You don't even know. It's everything. It's everything.
Okay. Appreciate you. We're following, and
I'm so excited to see. I'm excited to see how it gets put together. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Hey, listen, you're a lot, dude. So we got.
I'm a lot.
Yeah, it's so good. All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
I love you, man.